Hi everyone. I am sure by now that you have figured out that this week is going to be a bit different than most of the last several have been. Today's service is part update, it's part exploration, and part intentional rest. Worship is going to happen off-site, but I'll give you some details on that in just a few minutes. I realized last week that Advent was coming and fast. And if I was going to take even a small break in my work, then this week was my chance. In March, when COVID began, every church in America began to regroup and try to figure out how to continue providing worship and community and spiritual leadership. And South Broadway was no exception. For the last 8 months, I have been trying to figure out how to be pastor, writer, videographer, volunteer coordinator, chaplain, leasing agent, and property manager, among other titles. It is the most rewarding and challenging work of my life. Instead of reducing my workload, however, as many might have expected, it has instead increased significantly. With the reduction in staffing and the move that we made to online worship a few months ago, just about everything about the way that I worked changed. And I suspect that many of you can relate to that. Our worship services look simple, but depending on the week and the number of videos and the volunteers and how much filming I'm responsible for, our services take between 20 and 30 hours each week to produce, not including about 4 hours each week that my husband volunteers to edit and assemble and publish the videos that we put together. Now, I'm salaried at about 30 hours weekly, which means that I end up volunteering a lot of my time in administration and meetings and planning. But these are all necessary for the well-being of the church. I also haven't taken any significant time off since Pastor Vic left in August of 2019. And I've taken no Sundays off since then. I have asked friends to preach for me a few times, and I've taken a couple of traveling vacations where I was away, but I was still working. Taking time from this week's service has given me just a small break, and will also hopefully provide us collectively some learning opportunities that we need. And I hope you'll be understanding of this change. We've all struggled this year in ways that are hard on the soul. You are no exception. Please understand that I've shared the information about how I work, not out of a desire for sympathy or extra pay or even for the attention. I love what I do, and I love working with all of you, and that is an incredible gift. In those ways, I really could not be more fortunate. And I'm grateful to be able to give something back during this time as well. I do think, however, it's important for you to know how I have tried to work for the benefit of the community, believing that consistency in leadership was what we needed during this troublesome time, and I still believe that that's the case. I also know that for us to be prepared for the future, we cannot simply wait and rest until COVID is over. I believe we are on track to do some amazing work in 2021. Continuing work like our sandwich ministry, resuming work that we have already begun, like the Women's Homelessness Initiative, and breathing new life into work like our Open and Affirming ministry. Finding ways to partner with new friends in ministry, like House for All Sinners and Saints Lutheran Church. And growing new partnerships with community organizations in our midst. And on this, I am already hard at work. We have other work to do still to be ready, including evaluating worship and staffing needs, revisiting our mission and vision statements, and considering the possibilities in future partnerships. All that said, I believe we will be well prepared to move forward when COVID allows us to. While we might be a bit rusty in spots, we won't be lagging behind in our work as a community. Our future as a community remains bright, and I am as confident as I have ever been in the work that we are doing together. Going into the new year, I will make a better effort to balance my own self-care in this mix. Like many of you, I underestimated both the duration and the emotional drain of COVID. While I am hopeful for the year to come, I also know that even those of us who remain well will have to recover from COVID too. I hope you are practicing self-care and that you will be supportive when I do the same. And I am by no means alone in this work. Our staff, as well as our elders and many other volunteers, have stayed right at work for the church, and I could not do my job without them. To say I am grateful for the many hands who have continued helping is an understatement, because so much of our work never stopped. I am grateful also for those of you who remain excited but patient for what lies ahead. I am grateful for those of you who have remained so faithful in your giving. The faith in our work that each of you shares, that faith in the work sustains me. And this is no exaggeration. I know many of us were tired going into COVID. And I am grateful for the dedication that you have continued to express as hard as this time has been on us all. When we return, we will have work to do. And part of that work will be raising up new leadership, as well as providing sabbatical to old leadership. We have not always cared for one another in this way, and we are going to learn to do it. We have work to do on our structure so we can streamline leadership and decision making, so we can both rotate folks in leadership to keep perspectives fresh and move others who have served for years on end toward times of sabbatical. These moves are essential for us, because one of the things that we have failed at most greatly is that we have allowed many of our good leaders to burn out. We must find ways to make leadership life-giving and meaningful, and we must say yes to opportunities and to trust and support one another. For many of us, it will mean letting go of doing some of the things we love. But for the long-term good, we must. Other churches have figured out how to do this, and we will too. But it won't happen unless we make it happen. This hard work could be the most important work we do in 2021. Going forward, we have to look at our worship, how it is meeting needs and how it isn't. We have to look at both worship online and keep in mind eventually worship in person. I believe we can make a shift to seasonal planning teams that keep worship vibrant, creative, and life-giving to both the volunteer and to the congregant. It is a model that allows people to serve on teams for weeks instead of years. It's high on creativity, broad in involvement, and low on burnout. We have an opportunity to look closely at our music team and to decide anew what kind of leadership will fit us best going into the future. Heading into 2021, I want you to give thought to our ministries, to our partnerships, to the possibilities that lie before us, such as that potential partnership with the Early Education Center we have been discussing. And we're working on that to see where it might go. We need to decide what fits us and what doesn't. We have to revisit our mission and vision statements to decide if they fit us and revise where necessary. We need a new future story to help us envision the path that could lie ahead for us. And this is work that we can do together, beginning after the new year. We must keep up our work online, in worship, learning, and in building community. And I need your leadership, your participation, and your feedback. I'd like for us to look at education opportunities, perhaps with another book or video discussion group, and also look at the possibilities of live worship using Zoom. While folks seem to have enjoyed the freedom of the recorded worship service we've provided the last few months, to worship whenever they want, our average worship attendance numbers have dropped from summer by more than a third. I think this has to do with a combination of increased social engagement in the fall, not having a scheduled worship time, and needing to make adjustments to the service to keep it fresh and engaging. Now, all that said, what about tomorrow? I want you to go to church somewhere else. This may be the only time you ever hear me say that. But I want you to keep feedback for me in mind. Attend a service online. Go wherever you'd like. You can also view recorded services if you're not comfortable being live in someone else's congregation. You should know that attendance may mean registering just a bit in advance so that you can get in. But many churches have their archived services available to view. I will include a couple of options for you that you can click on in the email, but you can worship wherever you'd like. I ask, though, that you do some homework for me, just a little bit of homework. I want you, after you have seen the service, to either call or email or text me with the following information. I want you to tell me where you went to church. I want you to tell me the date of the service, if it's, today or another day in an archived video. I want you to tell me one thing you didn't care for and 2 things you really liked. So 4 things. I want you to tell me again the name of the church, the date of the service, 1 thing you didn't like, 2 things you did. So just a reminder, this is not a day off from worship. This information will be helpful to me in working to update our service going forward. If you can give me feedback in the next week or so on this Sunday's worship, I would be very grateful for that. And meanwhile, let me say, I am always grateful to be in this work with you. The South Broadway Church is made up of the very best people in the whole wide world, if you ask me. And I want to say again that I believe in us, and I believe in the work that we're doing together. So today I will leave you with one other question as we head into Advent. What is it that you dream of? What sparks your soul when you think of our community and our work together? Because I believe with God's help, we can make beautiful things happen. Amen.